So what if
Hmm.
the strategies and, the technologies developed in one of the world's really long-running conflicts,
Yeah.
what if they aren't just contained there?
Right. What if they're actually, like, setting a global blueprint
Exactly.
for how states manage people, how they do information warfare?
Mm-hmm. Even how they handle big crises, like pandemics.
It's a really fascinating question. A bit chilling, actually, when you start, connecting the dots.
It really is.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're plunging into Israel's, unique political model for asymmetric warfare.
Which is basically state versus irregular fighters, right?
Right. And we're going to look at how this model developed, some of the pretty controversial ideas behind it, and crucially, how the tools, the tactics, how they're being sold, exported, adopted, everywhere.
Yeah, influencing everything from like domestic issues to global stuff. It's kind of wild.
Yeah, and our deep dive today, it draws on a whole stack of sources.
Yeah.
We've got some really interesting bits from a documentary called The Lab. Mm-hmm. Plus academic research, some recently declassified government documents too,
Wow, okay.
and interviews military figures, activists, and just a load of investigative reports, from Israeli media, international media.
So a real mix.
A real mix.
Yeah.
And our mission, I guess, is to unpack these surprising links between, say, military innovation, controlling information.
And how that all turns into global business.
Exactly. We want to show you how this one specific conflict zone basically became a laboratory.
A laboratory, yeah. Testing out tech and strategies that now have worldwide implications.
Right. And what that means for you listening in this, increasingly connected and, surveilled world. That's what we're going to explore.
Okay, let's get into it. So how did this specific approach to asymmetric warfare become this whole political model? It kind of starts with a concept that's pretty stark, actually.
Yeah, almost shifts how you think about conflict. And there's this analogy that really hits home.
The chill maker, right.
Yeah.
Tom Feldman from The Lab.
That's the one. He basically says Israel offers an entire political model for asymmetric warfare. And to get the dehumanizing part of it, think about this analogy from 2020.
Okay.
An Israeli military app designed, according to Colonel Oren Matzliaf, to make striking Palestinians as easy as.
Mm-hmm.
His words were like ordering a book on Amazon or a pizza in a pizzeria using your smartphone.
Wow. Just like ordering takeout? That's startling.
It is. And you have to understand how that perspective, it feeds directly into this idea of politicide.
Politicide. Okay, where does that term come from?
It was adapted by the late Israeli scholar Baruch Kimmerling back in 2003. He defined it as the dissolution of the Palestinian people's existence as a legitimate social, political, and economic entity.
Dissolution.
Right.
So erasing them as a political entity.
Essentially. And he added, crucially, that this may also but not necessarily include their partial or complete ethnic cleansing.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very specific and, chilling way to frame the goal.
And this isn't just academic theory floating around, right? You found examples where this kind of thinking is acknowledged.
Oh, absolutely. We certainly have. I mean, take October 2021. You had a far-right Israeli parliamentarian, Bezalel Smotrich.
Okay.
He's talking to Arab members in the Knesset, that's the Israeli parliament. And he says, and this is a quote, "You're only here by mistake because Ben-Gurion didn't finish the job, didn't throw you out in 48.
He actually said that, openly admitting ethnic cleansing happened in 1948.
Plain as day. And look, this isn't some fringe comment that disappeared. Declassified documents from the Israel State Archives released in 2021, they actually show that forcibly kicking Arabs out was official policy discussed among some elites right from 1948.
So it wasn't just like a side effect of war, it was discussed as policy.
Exactly. You've got Reuven Aloni, Deputy Director General of the Israel Lands Administration, talking in 1965 about population exchange. He hoped a future war would provide the opportunity, saying the basic solution will be a matter of transferring the Arabs.
Transferring the Arabs.
And then there's Yehoshua Verbin, who ran the military government over Arab citizens from 48 to 66. He admitted, quite frankly, we expelled around 500,000 Arabs, we burnt homes, we looted their land. From their point of view, we didn't give it back, we took land. I mean, when you put these pieces together.
Yeah, it's not just isolated quotes. It paints a picture of, an underlying goal. To dissolve Palestinian existence as a legitimate political thing. It's pretty shocking when you connect those dots like that.
It is.
So if that's the foundation, what does that mean for the people in power? How do they view their own actions? How do they deal with that power imbalance?
That's a really important question. Military historian Martin Van Kervel, he touched on this back in 2002. He said basically, if you are strong in fighting the weak, then anything you do is criminal.
Anything you do is criminal.
Now, he did add context, saying the Israeli army has not by any means been the worst of the lot. Did not use napalm, did not kill millions.
Yeah.
But his main point was about the inherent dilemma. With such a huge power gap, the stronger side's actions almost inevitably look criminal to the weaker side.
It's a massive ethical tangle in these kinds of conflicts.
Definitely.
And connecting this back, it seems this ideology, this dominance, has gained traction inside Israel. We're seeing separatism becoming, well, mainstream.
Yeah, that's what historian Benny Morris observed in 2020. He said, Israelis want as little as possible to do with them Palestinians, want as few of them around as possible.
And the separation wall helps them.
And the fence helps that situation emerge, exactly. He linked this rise in separatism directly to the Palestinian suicide bombings during the Second Intifada, that period from 2000 to 2005, a really horrific time. Over 3,100 Palestinians killed, over 1,000 Israelis. So a direct cause and effect in his view.
And is this reflected in policy ideas too?
Well, yeah. Look at Micah Goodman's idea of shrinking the conflict. It was apparently quite influential with Naftali Bennett when he was prime minister.
Shrinking the conflict. What does that mean practically?
It means shrinking occupation without shrinking security. So essentially keeping the status quo, the control, but trying to reduce the day-to-day friction. It's not about ending things, it's about managing them, which really underlines that separatist idea.
Okay, so this is where Gaza comes in, right? Because it seems like the ultimate laboratory for this entire approach.
Absolutely, the ultimate laboratory. You've got this strip of land, completely encircled, over 2 million Palestinians basically trapped behind these high-tech fences under constant drone surveillance, borders sealed.
And they finished that massive barrier recently.
End of 2021, 65 kilometers of it. Cost over $1 billion. Kaaretz, the Israeli newspaper, called it a complex engineering and technological system, the only one of its kind in the world.
It really echoes that prediction from Van Creveld you mentioned earlier.
The one from 2002.
Yeah.
Yeah, about building a wall between us and the other side, so tall that even the birds cannot fly over it. Chillingly accurate.
So Gaza's population is stuck in this forced experiment. Testing grounds for the latest control tech.
Exactly, where the latest technology and techniques are tested. As Palestinian architect Yara Sharif put it, the Palestinianization of cities is happening worldwide, meaning these control methods tested there, they spread.
Okay, so if Gaza is the physical lab, it makes sense that the information space would be a lab too, how the conflict is presented.
Oh, completely. The IDF, the Israel Defense Forces, really changed the game in portraying war, especially during big operations like Cast Lead in 08-09 or Pillar of Defense in 2012.
How so? What changed?
They pioneered this insta-war strategy, live tweeting military operations, pushing out these slick, almost Hollywood-style infographics announcing killings, arrests.
Designed to whip up support back home.
Stir up nationalist fervor, absolutely.
Yeah.
Control the narrative in real time.
And this goes beyond just military updates, doesn't it? There's that whole aspect of using kind of progressive messaging.
Yeah, what some call woke washing or pink washing. The IDF Instagram page, for instance, it often mixes pro-gay or pro-feminist messages right alongside pictures of soldiers and weapons.
Like the breast cancer awareness post.
Right, October 2021, IDF headquarters lit up pink. But then you have critics like Yusuf Munir pointing out the stark irony. Palestinian women in Gaza often can't get breast cancer treatment because of the siege Israel enforces.
So a disconnect between the messaging and the reality on the ground.
A huge disconnect. And it's worth noting, this IDF playbook for information war, it gets copied. The U.S. military does similar things now. Think of the CIA's Humans of CIA campaign in 2021, very similar vibe.
So it's not just about winning battles, it's winning the story. And there's a deeper strategy here too, isn't there? Framing the conflict in a certain way.
Definitely. Sociologist Marisa Tramontano studied Operation Protective Edge in Gaza. Her 2021 research found Israel effectively positioned itself within what she termed an Islamophobic hegemonic coalition. Meaning it frames itself as a key player, a vital partner in this bigger global fight against Islamist extremism. Like, it's the easternmost front of the United States global war on terrorism. It's a powerful narrative to project internationally.
Okay, so if these technologies and narratives are developed and honed there, what does that mean for the rest of us? You mentioned exports.
Right. It means there's a huge global market for Israeli defense products, and they're often explicitly marketed as battle-tested over Gaza.
That's quite a selling point. Can you give some examples of where does this tech end up?
All over. Look at Canada. Late 2020, they bought Hermes 900 drones from Elbit Systems, $28 million worth.
And these were used in Gaza.
First tested in the 2014 Gaza war, yeah. Canada's using them for Arctic surveillance. But as Thomas Woodley from Canadians for Justice and Peace in the Middle East pointed out, buying them bolsters the profits of an Israeli weapons company, which builds drones to monitor and target Palestinian civilians under occupation. It's a direct line.
So tech tested in one conflict gets used for something completely different, but the money trail leads back. Any other big buyers?
The UK signed a big deal with Elbit too, January 2021. About $134 million US. This actually led to protests. Activists shut down Elbit factories in the UK in 2022. They were protesting weapons tested on, quote, Palestinian children.
So public pushback is happening.
Sometimes. But maybe one of the most striking examples is Russia.
Russia, how so?
After watching Israeli drones operate over Gaza, Russia licensed the design for the Israel Aerospace Industries Searcher's a second drone. They built their own version called the Four-Post.
So Russia is using Israeli-designed drone tech.
Exactly. And these Four-Post drones became absolutely key in Russia's military support for Bashar al-Assad in Syria. And get this, Israel actually trained Russian pilots to use them.
Wow. That's complex. Israel and Russia cooperating militarily in Syria.
It reveals this really complicated, often quiet relationship they had during the Syrian war. They even had a de-escalation hotline to avoid accidentally shooting at each other. So while these Israeli-licensed drones were gathering intelligence for the Russians,
Russian jets were acting on that intelligence.
Russian jets flying alongside them were firing missiles. Yet somehow, both Russia and Israel escaped international sanction for this.
Why do you think that is? How did they avoid sanctions?
Well, it points to a big problem. Surveillance tech moves way faster than international law. It's hard to regulate, hard to enforce accountability.
And the human cost in Syria?
Staggering.
Yes.
UN estimates point to over 350,000 Syrians killed since 2011, and specifically linked to Russian actions between 2015 and 2019, maybe 23,000 civilians killed. It's a brutal reminder of where this tech ends up.
Okay, let's pivot slightly to the surveillance state itself. Drones aren't just for intel or export. They're tools of direct control, right? Part of that politicide strategy we talked about.
Very much so. Think about the Great March of Return protests in Gaza, 2018-2019. Remember, 223 Palestinians were killed, thousands shot. The IDF actually tweeted, though they deleted it later, "We know where every bullet landed."
That implies incredibly precise surveillance.
It does. And you had figures like Brigadier Generals Vika Fogel saying some really shocking things in April 2018. Defending snipers, shooting children near the fence, he said his punishment is death. Just point blank.
And there were specific drone innovations for crowd control, too.
Oh, yeah. Really pushing the envelope. There was the Sea of Tears drone. It was actually a reconfigured Chinese commercial drone used by Israel's border force to drop tear gas canisters.
Onto protesters.
Onto protest crowds, even onto tents where women and children were, onto reporters. Apparently it was so effective they bought hundreds more immediately. Then there's the skunk water drone from an Israeli company called Aeronautics. Emits this absolutely foul-smelling liquid to disperse crowds.
Skunk water. Lovely.
And even talking drones. Drones equipped with loudspeakers broadcasting messages like, "Go home" to Palestinian protesters. It's direct aerial population control.
And there were warnings about this tech being sold globally.
Yeah, the Israeli group Coalition of Women for Peace warned that this kind of tech will likely be marketed and sold to oppress others worldwide. And interestingly, Israel only officially admitted using armed assault drones in 2022, even though Palestinians had been reporting it for years.
So beyond the physical tools, the drones in the sky, there's this massive intelligence apparatus behind it all. Tell us about Unit 8200.
Right, Unit 8200. Think of it as the IDF's elite cyber intelligence unit. Kind of like the NSA in the US, but maybe even more integrated with startup culture. It's staffed by these incredibly bright young recruits, often just out of high school.
And their focus.
Spying, hacking, surveillance. And its primary goal is described as mass monitoring of Palestinians in the West Bank and Gaza, collecting basically all their personal and political information.
All of it. Where does all that data go?
A lot of it gets processed through places like the Urim base in the Negev Desert.
Right.
It's one of the biggest signal intelligence stations in the world, feeding data straight to Unit 8200.
And the reach of this unit, it goes beyond just the immediate region.
Oh, absolutely. Edward Snowden revealed the extent of U.S.-Israel intelligence sharing. He was shocked that it included raw, private communications of Arab and Palestinian Americans. He called it one of the biggest abuses we've seen.
So intelligence gathered on U.S. citizens shared with Israel.
According to Snowden, yes. And it gets even more complex. The U.S. National Intelligence Estimate apparently labeled Israel as the third most aggressive intelligence service against the U.S.
More aggressive than Russia or China.
Third most aggressive, yeah.
Hmm.
And there are U.S. concerns about Israeli cyber weapons, like the NSO group's Pegasus spyware, being used against American assets or allies.
Pegasus has been in the news a lot.
Exactly. And it points to what some sources call an absence of a moral code overseeing these powerful cyber tools, like the Stuxnet worm, which the U.S. and Israel reportedly developed together to target Iran's nuclear program, exposed back in 2010.
And these Unit 8200 veterans, they don't just stay in the military, right? This links back to the startup nation idea.
Precisely. They take this incredibly advanced, often ethically murky expertise straight into the private sector. It's a huge pipeline.
Lucrative, I imagine.
Hugely. Unit 8200 alumni reportedly earn about 20% more than the industry average. Something like 80% get job offers before they even finish their service.
Any specific examples of where they end up?
Well, there was the case of Dark Matter. It's a company in the UAE specializing in spying and hacking for the Emirati government. They were actively recruiting Israeli veterans, including some from NSO Group.
Offering big money.
Reports mentioned offers of $1 million, together with lavish bonuses and luxury homes. And Harrods raised ethical questions about this back in 2019, before the UAE and Israel even normalized relations. It shows how quickly this military cyber expertise gets commercialized and crosses borders.
That's a striking example. Any others showing this global reach?
Yeah, look at MERS Security. It's a global firm. CEO and chairman are both Unit 8200 veterans. Back in 1999, they got the contract for Mabat 2000.
What was that?
Hundreds of surveillance cameras installed throughout Jerusalem's Old City, specifically to monitor Palestinians. The chairman, Hamer, was pretty blunt about it. The police needed a system in which Big Brother would control.
So they're selling Big Brother systems.
And they use their experience in Palestine as a selling point. They can point to their work in Palestine as evidence of successful operations. When marketing tools like Oscar, that's an open source collection analysis tool.
And this leads to some strange situations, right? Like working with the UN.
Exactly. It's a total paradox. In 2020, MERS Security, Elbit, Israel Aerospace Industries, all deeply involved in the occupation, won UN contracts to secure UN bases in Mali.
Even though the UN itself was telling companies not to work in illegal Israeli settlement.
Precisely. A glaring contradiction.
Now, you'd think in such a secretive, high-stakes unit like 8200, dissent would be impossible. But that's not quite right, is it?
No, it's rare, but it happens. The big moment was in 2014. 43 reserve soldiers from the unit wrote an open letter, sent it straight to PM Netanyahu and the chief of staff.
43 of them. What did they say?
It was powerful, they wrote. The Palestinian population under military rule is completely exposed to espionage and surveillance by Israeli intelligence. And crucially, information that is collected and stored harms innocent people. It is used for political persecution and to create divisions within Palestinian society by recruiting collaborators.
So they were blowing the whistle on how the intel was actually being used, not just for security, but for coercion.
Exactly. One of the signatories, identified only as Sergeant Nadav, explained it starkly. The intelligence gathering on Palestinians is not clean. When you rule a population, it forces you to take control, infiltrate every aspect of their life.
Meaning anyone could be a target.
He said any Palestinian could be targeted, maybe based on their private life, their sexual orientation, health problems, anything that could be used for blackmail, to deny permits, or just general harassment.
And there were other accounts like this.
Yeah, an anonymous veteran in 2021 talked about the work involving blackmailing gay Palestinians or threatening people's access to medical care. Another whistleblower told Middle East Eye they could listen to literally any phone call in the West Bank and Gaza. Even, people talking about sex, looking for dirt, for potential collaborators. It's pretty grim stuff.
It's a universe away from the glowing media profiles, like that Forbes piece in 2016 focusing on startups, barely mentioning Palestinians.
Right. And Ronan Bergman's book from 2018, Rise and Kill First, it detailed how some in Unit 8200 felt they were unofficially deciding whom Israel killed. He recounts the story of a veteran, Amir, who refused an illegal order, but a colleague just dismissed it, saying, they're all Arabs, they're all terrorists.
Just blanket dehumanization.
Yeah. And then you have Daniel, another signatory of that 2014 letter. Grew up in Tel Aviv during the suicide bombings, said he was very ignorant about the conflict. But after leaving 8200, the doubt started. He felt this burning sense of responsibility, came to see the occupation as not about self-defense, and declared his moral opposition.
So a real crisis of conscience for some.
For some, definitely.
Okay, this brings us to a really unexpected turn. how the occupation, in a way, came home during the COVID-19 pandemic. How did that happen?
Well, the pandemic presented, you might say, a perfect opportunity for these Israeli surveillance firms. They immediately started pitching their tech for contact tracing.
NSO Group, too.
Yeah.
With Pegasus.
NSO Group definitely jumped in, promoting itself as a potential savior. But investigations by groups like Forensic Architecture found their testing potentially exposed identifiable data in several countries, including Israel itself.
But it wasn't just private companies, right? The state itself got involved.
Massively. Israel took the unprecedented step of using its internal security service, the Shin Bet, kind of like their FBI or MI5 for COVID tracking potential cases, monitoring social media for illegal gatherings.
Using counterterrorism tools on its own citizens for public health.
Exactly. And it turned out the Shin Bet had actually been secretly collecting mobile phone metadata on Israeli citizens since way back in 2002.
Wow. So this system, designed originally for Palestinians, was suddenly turned inwards. How did Israelis react?
There was a significant outcry from parts of the Israeli media, some politicians. They were angry that a system designed to oppress Palestinians was now targeting Israeli Jews.
The hypocrisy wasn't lost on people.
Well, it was described as staggering hypocrisy by critics, especially Palestinians who had lived under this surveillance for decades. And bizarrely, the Ministry of Health tried to claim the Shin Bet was more privacy-respecting than private tech companies.
That's quite a claim.
The irony was thick, yeah.
Were there concrete examples of Shin Bet using these powers domestically?
Oh, yes. In May 2021, they used GPS tracking on Palestinians in East Jerusalem, sending threatening texts about violent acts, even to people totally unconnected to any violence. Shin Bet actually admitted this later in 2022.
And on Jewish Israelis, too.
There's the case of Orbaran, a Jewish activist in Tel Aviv. She got an automated isolation text message right after meeting with other activists. She suspected the Shin Bet was deliberately using the COVID rules to disrupt protests.
So using health surveillance for political purposes.
That was her suspicion. And she made a powerful point. Citizens have to fight this interference in all areas. It doesn't matter if it happens to an Israeli citizen or someone in the occupied territories. This is a slippery slope toward violating human rights.
That really highlights the danger of these tools spreading.
Absolutely. And it wasn't just Shin Bet. The Israeli military made West Bank Palestinians who had work permits download an app that constantly tracked their location.
So surveillance tech companies must have been having a field day globally during the pandemic.
They really were. And Israeli firms were right at the front. Carbine, for instance, backed by big names like Ehud Barak, Peter Thiel.
Peter Thiel, okay.
They marketed this 9/11 type service that asked for access to your phone's camera and location, ostensibly to help locate COVID patients. Then you had Supercom, already experts in electronic ankle tags for parolees.
Let me guess, repurposed for quarantine tracking.
Bingo. Interest spiked. They sold 30,000 tracking bracelets to Israel alone in 2021. Defense systems were rapidly rebranded for public health emergencies.
And the Israeli government was actively pushing this.
Oh, for sure. The Ministry of Defense was openly promoting companies like Elbit and NSO Group to other countries, offering emergency solutions. They even admitted in May 2020 that a goal was to expand defense exports, specifically for tracking civilians.
Tracking civilians. Just said it out loud.
Pretty much. And the Israeli media narrative often just bought into it. Dr. Oren Caspi summed it up in 2020. We're very good at the war sciences and war technology, and this is a war. So apply the war tools.
Even the New York Times seemed to miss the context.
Yeah, they ran a piece in May 2020. Israeli Army's Idea Lab aims at a new target, saving lives. It praised the creativity, but completely glossed over how these tools are normally used against Palestinians.
And this all kind of culminated in that B'nai Brak case, right?
Right. The ultra-Orthodox community of B'nai Brak, April 2020. They were basically treated like guinea pigs, subjected to the kind of intense surveillance and control operation usually reserved for Palestinian areas. Octopus Services provided the command systems, drones, cameras.
Total lockdown and surveillance.
And when residents challenged it in Israel's High Court, the court upheld these extreme measures, using the exact same legal justifications they'd used for decades to permit the occupation's measures against Palestinians. The hypocrisy was, again, called staggering.
So we've really covered a lot of ground here. We've journeyed through how this Israeli model for asymmetric warfare, well, it hasn't just shaped things there, has it?
Not at all. It's fueled this huge global industry.
From that really disturbing ordering pizza analogy for our strikes.
Right, to the widespread export of tech explicitly marketed as battle-tested, surveillance tech, control tech.
And we've seen how these core ideas like politicide or separatism, they don't just stay ideas. They show up in policy, in technology, in everyday reality.
And maybe the most surprising twist is seeing how these tools, honed over decades in the occupation, are sometimes now being turned inward, onto Israeli society itself.
Yeah, and what really stands out, I think, is how quickly innovations from one very specific, intense conflict become these off-the-shelf marketable solutions for governments everywhere.
Absolutely. Affecting people far, far away from any actual battlefield.
Yeah.
It really blurs the lines, doesn't it? Between military and civilian tech, between security and privacy.
And information control just becomes this pervasive background noise.
It really reshapes how we think about governance itself.
So the final thought for you listening, when you see how easily these battle-tested methods and technologies are adopted globally for everything from policing city streets to managing pandemics, what does that tell us?
Yeah, what does it say about where governance and control are heading worldwide?
How do we, as individuals, as societies, deal with a future where the tools designed for conflict zones are increasingly normalized for managing us, ordinary civilian populations?
And maybe most importantly, what does that mean for our basic rights?